Today, we're going to tell you which players on the Mets, Phillies, Braves, Nationals, and Marlins the Mariners could potentially target this winter. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, November 20th, 2025. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we're going to wrap up our divisional trade preview series with a look at the NL East. That means we're going to identify the best trade fits for the Mariners on the Mets, Phillies, Braves, Marlins, and Nationals. But before we do, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. So, Colby, I want to start here with the Atlanta Braves because they are weird. They're in a weird spot right now. They had a ton of bad injury luck this past season, and that ultimately derailed things, and they greatly underachieved relative to expectations. And they've already been busy this winter in adding. They have brought back Raisel Iglesias on a $16 million contract for 1 year as of last night, which Raisel Iglesias is a good reliever. $16 million, though. I don't know about that, but Godspeed. And then they also traded for Mauricio Dubon last night. So a couple moves yesterday made by this team that we're talking about. So it seems like they are retooling to gear up for a World Series run in 2026, like they were trying to do in 2025. So I'm not really sure how many fits there are, if any, for the Mariners here. If there's actually the potential for a trade for a major leaguer off of this roster for the Mariners. If I had to guess, it would have to come out of the bullpen, right?
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly. The Braves are a team that kind of thinks that they were unlucky last year. And I mean, they're not wrong. They had so many injuries in their rotation.
Yeah.
And
then Acuna kept getting hurt.
Right. It's fair to say that, sure. But it's also a team that's, got a lot of core players that are on the wrong side of 30. It's the Chris Sales, it's Matt Olson, it's Sean Murphy. So I think they're going to try and compete this year, which makes them kind of a difficult fit for the Mariners. Albies is a guy I would still ask about. He's got, a club option that got picked up this year, and he's got one more club option for next year. It's very low risk for the Mariners because if Albies isn't the guy, they could just not pick up that option. Now is that something that the Braves want to do? Do they have a second baseman? I know they like, is it Nacho Alvarez?
Yeah.
I know they like him quite a bit. They just traded for Dubon, who's probably going to be their shortstop or second baseman. So they might be willing to move Albies. That might be interesting. I don't see a way this works, but I guess Jerks and Profar technically is a guy who might be of interest, but I think it's like Grant Holmes and Aaron Bummer are kind of the two guys that I saw that makes quite a bit of sense. Holmes, you get a lot of club control with, so he'll be pricey. Bummer is just a 1 year deal. He's AAV $6.5 million. I don't know if that was backloaded or not. But that's within the realm of affordable. He gets a ton of ground balls. He's the second lefty you want out of the bullpen. Not really a swing and miss guy, although he can get some whiff. He's not, a 6K per 9 guy, but
he's actually making 9.5 this year.
Yeah, so that would be a little bit pricey on the higher end. So but those Bummer and Grant Holmes are kind of the two guys. But again, the Braves are trying to compete this year. They're trying to win the division this year, and I don't think that's necessarily foolish of them. They're going to be difficult to trade with just because they're going to want major league help if they're trading major league talent away. And, where do the Mariners have depth on their major league roster right now? They kind of don't, to be honest. So, I don't see the Braves as a particularly good fit, but there are some semi-interesting players if – the stars align and these two sides actually have some common ground that they can find.
Switching gears to the Philadelphia Phillies, who are also in a pretty similar spot. Another disappointing run in the postseason for a team that I thought heading into the postseason was the best team on the National League side of things. That wound up not being the case. But they apparently are actually listing on some of their guys on their major league roster right now. They've been fielding calls reportedly on Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, and Tanner Banks, all three of their lefties in their bullpen. And again, the Mariners are looking for bullpen help. They're looking for specifically left-handed bullpen help. So maybe there's something there, but same thing that you just brought up with the Braves. Are they looking for major league talent back? And obviously Dave Dombrowski has not been very realistic about some of his asks on some of his players as of late, as we know, specifically with Alec Bohm last year and what he was asking for him. He asked the A's for Mason Miller, apparently, for Alec Bohm. He asked the Mariners, apparently, for Logan Gilbert for Alec Bohm. So, like, how realistic is he going to be trying to negotiate a Matt Strahm or a Jose Alvarado or a Tanner Banks deal? That's kind of my big question here. But all three of those guys, I have varying levels of interest in for the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, Strahm is very quietly, one of the best relievers in baseball. He's very consistent over the last 3 years, and you only get him for a year. But how valuable is that to have a second lefty who's not only like a second lefty, he is as good as Gabe Spire was last year, and he's been that way for the last 3 years. Like, he's a very valuable piece. One thing that does make the Phillies kind of interesting is they have no future at catcher. Rafael Marchand is just not that guy. He's out of options. He used to be a guy. They traded is it Tate, however you pronounce it. They traded him in the Duran trade. So Harry Ford could be in play here. Do you want to go up Harry Ford for 1 year of even a very, very good to elite reliever? Maybe, maybe not. So I do think that could be in play here. Kerkering is another guy that I really like, and his season ended terribly, unfortunately, and you wonder maybe that's a guy who just needs to get out. Not that he's been bad in Philly, but something like that happens, it's really hard to recover, and so maybe that's a guy that they would be looking to move, and he's certainly got a lot of tools that the Mariners really like. Alvarado again got popped for the PEDs last year, wasn't able to help the Phillies in the playoffs, but he's been very good. Power sinker from the left side, so he makes a lot of sense. And then, Alec Bohm is a guy who still makes sense. I know that MLB trade rumors said that he was a non-tender candidate, so you might not even have to trade him or trade for him. And that happens tomorrow, by the way. The deadline for that is tomorrow. So we'll know if he's going to be a free agent or not. But Bohm is one of those guys. He's an overrated player. Certainly he was last year by the Phillies, which is why he was on their roster all year. But that is a guy the Mariners have had interest in the past. And we know that the Mariners do like to circle back. So I think you have to be open to the possibility that Bohm could be, a target here for the Mariners. It's just the cost has to be reasonable. And what is 1 year of a 2.5 win third baseman worth when you have Colt Emerson, when you have, Ben Williamson already on your roster? It's probably not worth a ton, but it is worth something semi-interesting. So, I mean, again, Dombrowski is the big X factor here. Who the hell knows what goes through that guy's head? But the Phillies do have some arms, particularly the left-handed relievers that the Mariners have been very vocal that they would like to acquire one. Philly's a team to watch. But again, would you trade Harry Ford for 1 year of Strahm? I don't know. Would you trade it for 3 years of Banks? You might. So it's kind of one of those things where there is a potential match here, but if Strahm had 2 years left, I think I'd trade Harry Ford for him. But as things sit right now, I don't know if I would or not. So it's kind of that weird dynamic. But Philly does make some sense. It's just how reasonable are they going to be? And based on last winter, the answer to that question is not at all.
All right, we'll look at more of these AL East teams in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen, and also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. On tomorrow's show, we're going to be visiting with Ryan Dibish of the Seattle Times to talk all things Mariners offseason, so look forward to that. But now let's get back into our NL East trade preview. This is our last divisional trade preview of the winter. Just talked about the Phillies and the Braves. Maybe some bullpen help there with those two clubs, but not a whole lot to talk about, really. Let's talk about one of the worst teams, though, in this division that could be open to trading some pieces off of its major league roster, though at times they were one of the hottest teams in baseball this year, so maybe they're on the upswing. That's the Miami Marlins, Colby. And they've added some young talent that's really helped them out here, like Jacob Morrissey. Obviously, Kyle Stowers had a breakout year last year. But there's a couple of guys on this roster that I really like, and it does seem like they're probably going to look to trade some starting pitching this winter. Maybe Sandy Alcantara is one of those guys that stands out. But yeah, when you look at this Marlins roster, who stands out to you specifically for the Mariners?
Well, if the Mariners trade Luis Castillo, Alcantara is at the top of my list. You know, you get him for 1 year guaranteed, and then there is a club option for a second year. So, you know, some real club control if you want it. But if he struggles like he did last year, you don't have to pay him. He's making very reasonable money, and at times he won a Cy Young. Like he's been a legit ace, although he does it with a lot of ground balls, not so much strikeouts. Not that he doesn't strike out anybody. It's just, you know, heavy sinker and whatnot. So Alcantara would be like number one. I've liked him for a long time, and if he's available, I'm interested. Also out of that rotation, Edward Cabrera is a guy who has been talked about a lot. Over the summer, he was talked about, and he's been talked about again. It does feel like they're probably going to trade him this winter, which is interesting because you get him for 3 years, and he just kind of had a breakout year this year. So, you know, it might be selling a little low, but low 3 based on ball per 9, high 9 strikeouts per 9. He was a 2-win pitcher. He's 27 years old. You get him for 3 years. There's a lot to like there, but he will be pricey. You know, bullpen wise, there's quite a few guys in this pen that make some sense. Calvin Faucher, as Ty rolls his eyes. Ronnie Henriquez has had a huge year. I don't know that they would trade him after that breakout year, but maybe they think this is the best you're going to get out of him. And so they flip him. He's got 5 years of club control left. He was a 1.5 win pitcher out of the bullpen this year. So that would be an expensive but interesting option they could go after. Anthony Bender is a guy we've talked about a lot. Funny enough, he has all 3 options left. So there's actually some versatility there, even though he's, 31 and he's been in the league now for 4 years, but he's a solid middle inning guy, could take some pressure off of the bullpen a little bit. So yeah, from the pitching side, there's quite a bit. I know I left somebody out, but I figured you were going to talk about him in a second. And then like from the offensive side of things, Xavier Edwards is kind of interesting. Otto Lopez is kind of interesting. And Connor Norby is maybe a dark horse that could be in play here. So yeah, the Marlins actually have quite a bit that makes sense for Seattle, and it's just kind of hard to nail down which direction they're going to go this offseason. I think they're going to add, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't trade some of these guys. And also I'll throw as kind of maybe, although it's not the cleanest fit in the world right now, but Dane Myers is an interesting fourth outfield type as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Otto Lopez. Great up the middle glove. Actually, reverse splits guy. He hits righties way better than he hits lefties. I'm a big Otto Lopez fan. And I think he's someone that could take another step as well here in 2026. But I think the Marlins are probably going to hang on to him. Andrew Nardi, there was a report from, I forget what their beat writer, like their main beat writer's name, but he's like their Ryan Divish, basically. He's reported
Mish.
No. Yeah, I guess he's like the Ryan Divish of them. I guess this guy's like their MLB.com reporter. So I guess he's like their Daniel Kramer, rather. That's like a better comp. He reported a couple of weeks ago that Andrew Nardi is going to get non-tendered. Nardi obviously missed all this past year. So really, I've liked Nardi for a couple of years. I don't know where he is health-wise right now. But we obviously had him in our offseason plan as like someone we would give a minor league deal to. I would also be open to giving him a major league deal, frankly. I really like Andrew Nardi, just, so long as everything checks out. But yeah, the guy that you left out, I assume that you left out for me to talk about is Max Meyer. Meyer obviously like started the year last year as like an early like Cy Young favorite, and then he got hurt again. And overall, the numbers declined and all that. And right now, it kind of seems like he's on the outside looking in of this rotation. Now, again, they could trade Alcantara. They could trade Edward Cabrera. They could trade, another one of these guys out of nowhere. But they also have quite a bit of starting pitching depth as well. That's like, either close to making their debut or already have. Mm-hmm. And Meyer potentially could start the year in the minor leagues. And if so, I'm kicking the tires on that. And I think he could be a legitimate weapon out of the bullpen, especially if you just get him throwing sliders and changeups, and obviously he's got to throw the fastball a little bit to set up the changeup. But overall, I'm just spamming sliders with him. And obviously that pitch generated a 42.5% whiff rate this year. It's nasty. It's a nasty offering. So yeah, I would love to see what Max Meyer looks like out of the bullpen in general. Honestly, if he stays in Miami or he gets traded elsewhere, I want to see Max Meyer out of the bullpen. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah. By the way, pretty darn good control and command too. It's not just a stuff guy. There's legitimate, 50, 55 control and command.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So let's talk about the New York Mets, another team that's just in kind of a weird spot right now. We talked about this a little bit yesterday when we were talking about the Reds for our NL Central trade preview. The Mets had an all-time collapse to fall out of the playoffs and for the Reds to sneak into the postseason. And now, Pete Alonso's a free agent. Again, we'll see if they try to bring him back once more like they did last year. But offensively right now, it's Lindor, it's Nimmo, it's Soto. And then after that, Mark Vientos got his stuff together a little bit in the second half after a disappointing start to the year. Brett Beatty finally had that breakout a lot of people have been waiting for. 111 WRC plus for him, 2.3 F4 season. Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, but then, it starts to thin out pretty quick on the offensive side of things. And I'm not sure how many of these offensive players the Mets are going to be willing to part ways with, though. There has been reports about Brandon Nimmo, which maybe you have some thoughts on him that we'll go over here in a second. But yeah, just looking through this major league roster right now as it currently stands for the Mets, there just isn't a ton that really stands out to me. Not a ton in the bullpen, really. There's some starters in case you trade Luis Castillo. This honestly might be a Luis Castillo destination. We'll see how, the offseason plays out. Maybe that's really the path here to any sort of significant deal being done between these two clubs. I don't know. Anything else stand out to you?
Um, there's some murmuring that the Mets are kind of looking to move some of these contracts and whatnot, not necessarily to save money, but to kind of reallocate it. So Nimmo would be interesting. It's just he's got 5 years left on his deal, and he's 33 years old. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
they're not going to do it. Yeah,
no, not for a corner outfielder. So yeah, that would be semi-interesting if not for that. One name that is kind of interesting because, well, for a couple of reasons. A, the Mariners always circle back, and we know that the Mariners' interest in Jeff McNeil has been around for quite a bit. Now, are they still interested in him? I don't know. The last 3 years, he's mostly been about a league average hitter. This last year in 2025, he was actually a 111 WRC plus. He's, probably a pretty safe bet to be a 2-win player. He's an okay defender. That is trending down though, but again, you only have him for a year, but he does have a club option as well. So you could have him for up to 2 years if you really want to. He's a solid player. He's played second this last year. He played 79 games at second, 34 in center, 10 in left, 10 at DH, 7 in right, and 2 games at first. So he's played all over the ballpark still. He's still good enough athlete to do that. He makes a ton of contact. Honestly, if you want Brendan Donovan, but you don't want to pay Brendan Donovan prices, Jeff McNeil might be the pivot there. So that's the guy to keep an eye on. But the guy who jumped out the most at me as somebody that I would really like to see the Mariners get their hands on is Luis Torrens, the backup catcher. Yes, that Luis Torrens, who is, by the way, guys, this might shock you, an elite defensive catcher.
Yeah.
Better than Cal Raleigh behind the plate. Obviously, not better than him at the plate. But also, again, he kind of provides that same element that Garver does, hits lefties very well. Torrens actually puts the ball in play, a fair amount, and he makes hard contact. Like, he's not a nothing at the plate. You only get him for a year. He's going to make $5-6 million, which might be a little much for the Mariners on a backup catcher contract. But if they trade Harry Ford, maybe Torrens gets non-tendered here in the next 24 hours or so. But I would be interested in Torrens as my backup catcher if that need arises. But in all seriousness, the one name that really jumped out here and has been getting some major push over the last couple of days is Kodai Senga.
Yeah.
Who is apparently available. He really struggled at the end of the year, so much so they put him down in AAA.
And look, this is a Mets team that had a lot of starting pitcher injuries and just issues over the course of the year. They're going to be looking to add some starting pitching. So if they're looking to trade a guy, that kind of sends up red flags to me.
Yeah, I mean, he missed pretty much all of 2024 as well, and he just didn't rebound in 2025 the way that they were hoping. But this guy has some of the nastiest stuff when he's healthy.
This guy.
Yeah.
Now, here's a guy.
Yes. But the ghost fork is one of the filthiest pitches I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right. Now, he's 32 years old. So, he's on the older side relative to the rest of the Mariners rotation. And you have him for 2 guaranteed years, and there is a club option. So there's risk here. There's no question about it. He hasn't been the same since 2023, but the stuff is insane. Yeah, he probably walks a little bit too many guys for the Mariners to be super interested. And if the strikeout rate doesn't rebound to, the mid tens, then the walks are going to be prohibitive, I would think. But this guy could be a 3.5-4 win pitcher. He could be a legit number 2. Obviously, you need more information on on how the injury is going that I don't have. But Kodai Senga is fascinating to me because I think if the Mariners acquired him, he would have the best stuff in the current rotation. Just best raw stuff in the current rotation. And he could be a guy who is just like, he's the number one, he's the ace that I'm going to go and I'm going to pair against, Tarek Skubal and feel really good about my odds. So again, it's going to come down to what does he cost in trade? How does the medicals look? But this is a guy, even if I had Luis Castillo still on my roster, I might trade for this guy and then go out and shop like a Bryce Miller or maybe I start shopping George Kirby. I really like Senga, but that, again, that's all pending the medicals. I can't take a risk on a guy that I'm not convinced will be healthy in 2026. I just can't do it, but he's definitely a name to watch.
Yeah. All right. So lastly, the final team to talk about here on our divisional trade preview series, the Washington Nationals. We made a trade with them in our offseason plan for Mackenzie Gore. So you know how we feel about Mackenzie Gore. But there's some other pieces on here that I'm interested in. I want to start with CJ Abrams and get your thoughts on him.
Yeah. 3-win player.
Yeah.
So
despite being an awful defender.
Yeah, terrible. He is the worst short. Like, he makes JP Crawford look like, well, young JP Crawford. So here you're trying to acquire him to play second or third if you're going after him. No question about that. You get him for 3 years. So yeah, he's young. He's in his prime still. So there's a lot to like here. There's also some, well, I don't know if it's fair to say there's maturity issues here, because there was the thing at the end of 2024, as far as we know.
The casino thing.
Right.
Yeah.
There were no incidents in 2025. So that probably isn't a fair thing, but maybe it is. It's something teams are going to consider.
CJ Abrams, get ready to learn Snoqualmie.
Right. He doesn't get on base a ton. It's not a bad on base. It's just 315, 310, which is a little bit below average, or it might be right on average. There's pop, but it's not insane power. Like, he's probably going to hit 15 to 20 homers. He's probably going to steal 30 bags. He's going to be about a league average on base guy. The batting average, he'll have to hit for some average to maintain the on base. He doesn't walk a ton. So he's an interesting player. It's just there are some potential landmines that you have to avoid here. And you have to feel comfortable with them if you're going to trade for him, because he's probably also going to cost quite a bit. But he's a good player, and I think he would be an excellent second baseman. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where you like the player, you're a little bit iffy about what the cost is going to be, because I think I think that the Nationals are probably going to look at this and be like, oh, well, we want the moon. Like, we want insane amount. And it's like, for 3 years of a 3-win player, like, I think you're looking at that Randy Arozarena type of package for this, because it's 3 playoff races with the player. That's so a little bit more than Randy. I think they're going to be looking for, like, I mean, they're not going to be looking for Juan Soto necessarily, but like,
no, but they're going to try and trade him as an up the middle 3-win player.
Right, which is incredibly expensive. With 3 years of club control left, who's still in his prime, can steal a ton of bags. I mean, he's not technically, he hasn't even hit his prime yet. He just turned 25 about 6 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm interested. I think ultimately the cost would get to a point where if I were the Mariners GM, would be like, nah, I'm out.
My issue with CJ is, like, the numbers are obviously there. Like, he has produced, and he has been able to consistently produce now for a couple of years. But also, there isn't, like, one particular thing that he does well at the plate. Like, he doesn't really hit the ball that hard, that often. He doesn't really work counts. He doesn't work walks. I mean, he strikes out under 20%, so that's nice. But, like, I don't know. Like, you look at his Savant page, like, it's all just kind of, like, in the middle. Like, a lot of light blue. Yeah. There's no red. There's no even, like, pink on here. And there hasn't been really throughout his career. Like, it's, I don't know. I just wonder. like if I'm going to pay the kind of price that I think the Nationals would want, I just don't know if Abrams is the guy that warrants that kind of cost.
Right. It's a risky profile for Seattle. as well, particularly at T-Mobile Park. So, because he doesn't hit the ball extremely hard, he doesn't lift the ball extremely well. So it's just
He
one of
also
those things.
chases a lot. Like,
Yeah.
even though that he doesn't strike out a ton, he chases a lot. So
Right,
I
but
just,
he
I don't know.
doesn't draw walks. Again, he's a 107 WRC plus. He's not a 115, 120.
Yeah.
I think you'd probably have to hope that if you get him off a shortstop and you put him at like second, for example, that he might that might take some of the pressure off of him, and he might have another gear offensively. Again, he's only 25 years old. I want to stress that.
Yeah.
But it's not a guarantee, and there's a chance that you'd give up a king's ransom for a guy who's going to be a fringe league average bat who can't really play defense anywhere. So
Yeah.
you really have to be careful here. Honestly, Abrams is a guy who I think there's a shot a team might acquire him this winter and be like, we're playing him in center. Like we're
Yeah,
going to
maybe.
push him out there like
Yeah.
D. Gordon a few years ago. So
Mhm.
yeah, Abrams is a polarizing player. I think ultimately he's too risky for me based on what I assume it's going to cost. But there's certainly a cost point where I'm like, yeah, I'll take that shot.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
Mhm.
I don't really know how good he is. And I don't know how that's going to line up with how the Nationals specifically value him. So yeah. All right. What about Jose Ferrer?
No. How about James Wood? He strikes out a lot, so maybe the Nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ferrer is kind of one of those guys who Fangraphs loves. Like they have
Yeah.
him as the 1.5 pitcher. And I look at the profile and I kind of look at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's great. He's had a home run problem this year, not a bad one, but a little bit. A lot of ground balls, but he also,
Tons.
yeah, like
He's just
completely
he's a souped up version of Caleb Ferguson to me. That's what he is.
is, right? And I don't want to pay the price for 4 years of that. Doesn't miss a ton of bats. He doesn't walk guys. He doesn't miss a ton of bats, but this is a number that's been pretty consistent with him. His left on base percentage, which is kind of a huge deal for
Yeah.
relievers, is bad.
Yeah.
Like this last year, 64.9% left on base. It's a third of the time he was allowing inherited runners to score.
Now, to be fair, Nationals infield defense is garbage. Abrams is obviously a big part of that. And if you have a ground ball heavy pitcher with guys that don't have great range, that's probably not a good mix.
You look at the numbers, they'll tell you right here. ERA was 4.48. His FIP was 3.03.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested in the guy, but I don't think he's a high leverage guy.
Yeah.
If only I had a specific term I like to use for what I'm looking for in the out of the bullpen. I'm not allowed to say it on the show, I guess, but
I mean, you can, but
okay, yeah, fine. I don't think Ferreira is it Ferrer?
Ferrer, yeah, Ferrer.
I don't think he's a daddy out of the bullpen, and I want a daddy. So I think he's a very good pitcher. I think he'd actually would be better in Seattle than he was in Washington. Although, let's be honest, Seattle's infield defense, as it sits right now,
I mean,
not
it's
exactly
not
great.
Yeah, it's not particularly stellar. Yeah,
no, but I don't want to pay for a guy who's like a 1.5 win reliever. I'm not paying that price for this guy.
right.
So I don't think I'll end up getting him. But yeah, he's interesting. He'd be a really good second lefty, but is he better than Gabe Spire? No, he's not.
No.
So interested. But again, like I said with Abrams, am I willing to pay the price I think the Nationals are going to ask for that guy? No.
Plus, he's like the only good reliever in their bullpen right now.
Yeah.
Like everyone else either has like walk issues or they just suck in general.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they're probably gonna try and value him fairly high.
Yeah, they should.
But yeah.
But
God, this roster sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you could see why they looked at it and they're like, I know we kind of said we originally wanted to compete in 2026, but woof, we're not close. So yeah, it makes sense that they might trade Abrams. Luis Garcia might get non-tendered, which would be an interesting target for the Mariners. I know that he didn't have a great year this last year, but the year before in 2024, pretty good player. Also, defense fell off a cliff, which is unusual, which makes me think maybe there was some kind of injury thing that was happening. But
Yeah.
Luis Garcia could be a good stopgap, maybe third baseman or second baseman to kind of do both. So
yeah,
keep an eye on Luis Garcia. But I think obviously the name people would expect us to say if they listen to our offseason plan episode would be Mackenzie Gore.
Yes. Yep. Mackenzie Gore, that's really the guy for me. Again, it's based on if you trade Luis, and Gore only projected to make $4.7 million in arbitration this year. He's going in one direction while Luis seems to be going in the opposite direction. So that was kind of the idea behind bringing him into the fold after trading Luis, or at least being comfortable with trading Luis and having having Gore as kind of the fallback there. I don't have any delusions of Mackenzie Gore actually being the ace that I think a lot of people thought he was going to be when he was a prospect, when he was one of the best prospects in the game. But I do think there is some more room to grow there, and I do think some of his issues over the last couple of years might be due to just how bad the Nationals have been, especially defensively. And again, like, the Mariners aren't great defensively either, but I think just getting him in T-Mobile Park in general would help him quite a bit with some things. I would just love to take the shot, and I would just love to have the different look and have that that lefty presence in the Mariners rotation as well.
I think relative to what I assume, so I'm guessing basically, relative to what I assume the Nationals are going to ask for all of these guys, the player on this team I'm most interested in is actually Garcia. Yeah. I think he can be had pretty cheap. So, and by the way, one thing I will point out about the Nationals, as we talked about the other day, not hard to find out what player they have not hard to find out what player the Mariners have that the Nationals would love to get their hands on. It's really not hard to draw that line. And they are one of the teams this winter that will be looking, or will, in theory at least, be willing to take pure prospect packages for their players and not be looking to get major league pieces for major league pieces. And that makes them an enticing trade candidate. It just, you wish that they had a little bit more, particularly in that bullpen to go get. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe you get like an Abrams and Ferrer package, and it's like, well, that helps. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think the Nationals and the Mariners do actually line up okay. It's just the Nationals don't have a lot of pieces that you would have a ton of interest in. But keep an eye on the Nationals this winter.
All right, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Colby, Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.